The battle continues as Space Station contests Tempo Storm in their playoffs run to HGC Finals. Gilly, Dread, and Glaurung back again for more NA brawls. Glaurung, Team Wish is kind of on a tear in Europe.
That was just some magnificent Heroes of the Storm we got to witness over on the European broadcast. That was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch Expert play Team Wish.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to figure out who we want to win that after having the great storyline of Team Wish heading all the way to that final match, being able to take out Tricked Esport. But Dread, we have another BlizzCon team going to the HGC Finals. Congratulations to Darksided from ANZ. We've got a new representative, but there's a couple familiar faces there.
Yeah, specifically got to be Robodoba. That guy, for anybody who doesn't know, every single tournament that we have had internationally where Australia and New Zealand has been represented, he's the only player who has been there over and over again every single time, to the point where, I mean, compared to the rest of the world, he's actually one of our highest attendees within international performance. So congratulations, Robodoba and the rest of Darksided for going to BlizzCon.
Honestly, like he should be really proud of that. The fact that the Nomia roster changes happened and he was able to come back with the new squad and recover and make that, like, qualify for BlizzCon, that to me is awesome.
Yeah, Robodoba will be there. Sashin is another sort of familiar face from there. He used to be on Negative Synergy back with the boys at one point, and then went over to create Darksided. And Darksided has been making a name for themselves for a long time in ANZ. The past couple of regionals, they've been trying really hard. They've been throwing out some lava wave plays that I know Trick's been super excited about. So I'm really excited to see how they can do at an international stage. But we are switching over to North America now, and as we look at the playoffs bracket, we are right smack dab in the middle of the action. Yesterday, Space Station Gaming defeated Superstars 3-1 and will go on to take on Tempo Storm. And Dread, this is kind of a new place for Tempo Storm to be in. Every event this year internationally, they have auto-qualified for it. So this is the first time we're seeing them have to play through the playoffs like this.
And it is a bit jarring, the fact that they're halfway through the ladder system here. But they've also, on social media and any public forum that they've been able to speak as of late, it seems like Tempo Storm is overly confident. Maybe not even overly so. They are just flat confident. And they are boastful of how they're feeling. The morale seems to be very high. And though in the past when Tempo Storm maybe can speak confidently internationally, they don't always back it up. When looking towards North America, they almost always do. So if I'm Space Station Gaming, I'm immediately already scared.
Well, Glaurung at Tempo Storm also is at a boot camp right now, and we'll be playing from that. That's got to have a lot of benefits for their mentality.
Absolutely. Like, the boot camp, I think, really is good for Tempo Storm because they've been a team with such a long history. They've been together for so long that, honestly, they might have needed something to help them come together and sort of rally before the BlizzCon because they have, as Dread mentioned, internationally not done that well in the past. So that sort of stress and pressure can really, if you let it, destroy a team from within. But Tempo Storm has had the longevity and the patience to see that through. And this sort of boot camp is kind of like their last hurrah, and it gives them that chance to rally for BlizzCon.
Well, one of those rallying cries will definitely be from Koth and Luck. Let's hear from him and Casanova from Space Station about this match.
I'm very excited for the matchup versus Tempo Storm. I feel like they've been the team in the playoffs that we felt looked the strongest coming in. They were coming back off of a slump, and they started to look very strong towards the end of the season. And I feel like this should be a very good matchup between us two teams. After 3-0ing GFE, I feel confident if we can get past Tempo, we should be able to make it into BlizzCon. Since Tempo formed, they have made it to every single international tournament, and I think it would be kind of cool to be the team that keeps them from their first one.
Space Station can be a very frightening team when they are able to get the kind of comfort picks that allow them to play specific maps the way they want to. They are very strong in, like, well-practiced, well-oiled, like, very hero-specific comps. And if people don't know what they're trying to run on a given map, you can see Space Station just run people over in dominant performances. I think more so than any other team. The difference between winning and losing against Space Station comes down to the understanding of the draft phase against them and the styles that they want to play on that given day. The matchup against Space Station it's going to be one of those sets where our ability to adapt mid-set is going to determine who wins it. We think it's very possible that they can take a game with a comp that we're not expecting, or that they sneak by on us that they're very, very practiced and prepared on. And we think that in order to win the series, we're going to have to be willing to accept that we may make some mistakes in the draft in the set and be willing to adjust ourselves and shut them down in the future. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long day.
I want to get both of you guys' thoughts on this, starting with you, Glau. Casanova feels like Tempo Storm is the strongest opponent out of all the playoffs, and if they can defeat Tempo here, they feel like they have it unlocked. Do you agree, or do you think Gale Force, they're overlooking Gale Force a little bit there?
From my perspective, I think they might be disrespecting Gale Force a bit too much. I think that Gale Force is a team that should be respected at any given point in time. Like, for example, in our matchup versus GFE, we spent literally like 3 weeks preparing, and we were very nervous for that match, but ended up making it work. And I hope that that overconfidence, if they do make it through Tempo, doesn't come back to haunt them, because every team in the playoffs is formidable and there for a reason, so you got to show them at least some respect.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dren.
I think on the same kind of note when it comes to maybe not about a lack of respect towards Gale Force, but I think maybe that Space Station Gaming is undervaluing the amount of information they're giving everybody else while they're playing through the system. The final boss perspective of this ladder system is insanely underestimated, I feel, from a casual viewer's perspective. There is a lot that Gale Force is going to get from this series that they got from yesterday, and I don't think it's crazy to say maybe Tempo is the best team in the ladder system, but I do think it is bold to claim that that will be the hardest challenge for them.
Yeah, and Tempo will force Space Station probably to show some strategies
exactly.
here that Gale Force doesn't have
all
to.
of them. Like, yeah. This match is all or nothing for them. So, I mean, Space Station's got to be willing to show everything against Tempo, and that's got to be scary against GFE, because GFE is the kind of team that has a ton of pocket strats, and if they don't show anyone any of the plans they've been preparing, you can lose in like 7 minutes. Happened to me on Cursed Hollow.
It is frightening. That's the Gale Force are there for a reason in that final spot, that final boss spot. Let's get into the cheers before we start the draft for Game 1. We're taking a look at Tempo Storm first. We've got Gladman at the top. I say that just about every time with good reason. Thank you, Gladman, and everybody who's cheering for their favorite team, supporting their teams, and maybe even unlocking some cool items. I will tell you what, guys, I love the Space Station items in game. They're pretty neat. The banner looks awesome.
Yeah, it does look awesome. All the banners that we have, you know. But don't get me wrong, the new Space Station stuff here.
You know, I'm a bit partial to the Roll20 banner personally.
Oh, really? What is that?
You know, I just like the coloration of it. It fits really well with the color scheme of some maps. You put that on Dragonshire, for example, and it just looks really nice.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I do like that one too. I totally run based on who I'm playing at the time. So Malthael, MVP Black without a doubt. I like to channel my inner Rich.
That's kind of how I go for it for the most part too. It's just like which player do I want to try and embody the most within that game, and then I'll just go ahead and select everything from that point on.
Yes, I'm happy to say when I play Chromie, I rock the Roll20 stuff because I want to be as good at Chromie as Prisma is. He's terrifying. We've got Game 1 coming at you. It'll be on Braxis Holdout, chosen by, look at that, Tempo Storm. We were sure that was going to be a Space Station pick, especially since Tempo Storm have even been opting to ban that over Infernal Shrines.
I think this is really smart because Tempo is planning to play GFE. They pick Braxis here. I wonder if when they go against GFE, they ban Braxis, because that denies all of the scouting information. That denies all the scouting information from GFE. So this map choice is actually really intriguing that Tempo decided to do it. It's a bit of a risk, but if they win and move on to Gale Force, that's just 1 out of potentially 5. That's 20% of Gale Force's scouting information on Tempo Storm suddenly lost due to the ban in the next series.
Yeah, that's
really smart preparation.
It is brilliant preparation. Probably some of the most depthful that I feel like I've ever experienced in competitive Heroes of the Storm. Glad that we had you here to highlight it, Glorong.
That is super cool. We have the draft starting. Space Station in the first pick, first ban spot, and they'll ban ETC again.
I don't know. When I see stuff like that, I just get the chills, man.
Yeah. The nerd chills are going to be real here. Tempo Storm, though, quickly want to rid themselves of the Genji.
It makes sense. From second pick, like, he's such a nuisance on this map. But honestly, the way Braxis meta has sort of evolved in this current iteration in NA, it's kind of like devolved into either a 2-3 split, a 2-1-2, or a 1-4, and I'm partial to the 2-1-2. I feel like that's the strongest way to play the map, but alternatively, there are weaknesses, and I don't know. I feel like looking at Space Station and their history, I wonder if they're going to sort of set up that 2-1-2 style.
Yeah, they're often willing to first pick Muradin in this position. They did it versus Gale Force.
Equinox with Haymaker too, right?
Yep.
Occasionally? Yeah. Okay, so Medic first pick. The Medic's a really good support on this map, but lanes are relatively small. She gets a lot of value, but it makes a lot of sense for Tempo Storm to come back and deny the ball at Oreo. But the talking point for me in this position is where does Chromie lie?
Essentially for the defensive mechanics, right? Like it completely changes.
And also
that.
Incredible matchup into Oriole.
Yeah, I agree with you. I assume that Space Station Gaming would likely pick it before the secondary ban phase because it is a big enough resource that Tempo Storm may have to commit that to a ban. But I am not surprised whatsoever to see that Lieutenant Morales is highly picked on a map like this. It pretty much caters, when you're talking about the 3 laning phases, it can do every single one of those, right? Yeah. So I do appreciate that we see that high Lieutenant Morales.
Is there any possibility that it would be Gul'dan over Chromie just because Space Station, right?
It could be.
Space Station's definitely more favored toward Gul'dan than Chromie, and Horrify kind of functions with Aegis.
Wow, they already lock in the second support. So Space Station, from my perspective, in the first 3 picks, it looks like they're setting up the 2-1-2. And what's interesting to me is what lane will Gul'dan be a part of? He's really good with Medic in the sense that he can constantly pressure up the lane and put damage output in Siege slowly, but the thing is, Medic, I think it's the most value when she's paired with an auto attacker, and I wonder if Space Station's going to have the same logic, but there's really not that many auto attackers left up. I think that Gul'dan Rhaegar and then Medic and an auto attacker would be a good split up, but we'll see what they end up deciding. Tempo Storm right now is looking at the warrior choke. They're analyzing what warriors in a 2-1-2 setup are best at disrupting the points. So right here, I imagine the Anub'arak cover, they're trying to take into consideration where Muradin priority lies, because if they ban the Anub'arak here, then they're going to pick the Muradin. But if they ban the Malthael, then they're going to leave both Muradin, Anub'arak up, and then potentially flex it to a different last pick.
Can you highlight a little bit as to the Muradin, because that's a hero that we don't talk about too much, right?
This is his best map, certainly.
And can you talk about like why he is such a high priority compared to some of the others?
So in general, from the position of a warrior, high sustain is really valuable, and Muradin's talent, Third Wind, really allows him to sort of encapsulate that regeneration, and what he's able to do, threaten either the top point or the bottom point even when he's at a numbers disadvantage because of that dwarf toss, which is safe, and that Third Wind sustain. He can jump out, regen, come back in, and instantly start messing with the points.
Just a consistent problem over those shrines.
Consistently threatening the points, and that's why Muradin is very strong on this map.
Yeah, very difficult to be able to deal with here on Braxis Holdout. But as the draft went through, we saw that Garrosh and a double support on the side of Tempo Storm. So both sides here.
Yeah, so matching with the double support. And I feel like the Brightwing is good overall when you see the Gul'dan, just because Brightwing, when she's in that secondary support position, with Emerald Wind, I assume, will actually have a lot of passive healing, as well as spell armor on her E baseline now. So those are some little matchup things that I think favors them, and it's also a global, which is very helpful on this map.
Do you think that she has to move into Cleanse, considering that we do have a lot of AoE CC, a lot of all-in capabilities now, and that Ariel, with the lack of Cleanse, we were fearful of possibly that into the draft, or is it not? And talk about a heavy siege composition here for Tempo, that last pick Zarya.
I'm not sure how Tempo Storm will set up lanes here, to be completely honest with you. Space Station, what they want to do with this comp, I honestly think is they want to do a 3-2 split. They have, actually, dude, the team comps make lanes so weird. I have no idea what's going to happen. All I know is both teams are running double support on Braxis. One team has global, one team has the pressure from a medic. We got to see what ends up coming out on top.
There's a sort of pseudo-global that we talk about, though, that Space Station does have, and that's at least the threat, the fear of Zeratul that Space Station has.
For sure.
So that at least will help maybe scare away Brightwing a little bit from trying to get as much global siege as she would like, be soaking by herself maybe later on in the game. I have to ask what you guys think of these drafts. Do you give favor to either of the teams, Dread?
I mean, for me, I talked about it. I do feel Tempo Storm has been, very confident here. So I automatically am like, okay, this is going to be a very powerful tempo. But then even looking towards the draft, there's a lot of focus, a lot of cross-supporting, a lot of emphasis on sieging up in the front walls. I just expect that to really give them an early momentum in this game, and they'll carry it through.
And I have a personal bias a bit with Tempo Storm due to the fact that I'm close with some of the players. But if I can try and remain objective here and just look at the drafts, I think both are strong, but I have a slight favor towards Tempo's draft just due to the fact that double support Vala, in my experience, tends to be a bit stronger than double support Gul'dan. And also, the Zeratul for SSG in the past has been a little bit hit or miss. Lately, I think yesterday they had a couple of really good showings, but even still, I slightly favor Tempo.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that Zeratul popping up more and more for Space Station. We'll see how it works out for them versus Tempo Storm. We're going into Game 1 on Braxis Holdout of our second playoffs match.
Braxis Holdout, chosen by the one, the only Tempo Storm. In the blue, June is on Ariel. We have Garrosh, played by Fury. Koth and Luck on that secondary support, repping the Brightwing. Psalm on the hyper carry Vala, and last is Caterpillar on Zarya.
And in the red, Space Station Gaming, Tiger JK will be playing Lieutenant Morales. Rhaegar played by Jason, showing his second supporting yesterday too. Casanova playing Arthas. We'll see Equinox once again on Zeratul. And finally, Talking Trees playing his Gul'dan.
And you could hear a bit of, the kind of confusion, if you will, in Glorong's voice on what Tempo wants to do with the laning. And a lot of that is because they don't have a dominant solo laner, but you can tell that they want to clump in Siege up very effectively. So who is going to be that side soaker? Or is there going to be a side soaker here with this composition? And how are they going to indulge into this laning situation? Either way, no matter what they end up going with, I do feel like it is very, very likely that Tempo Storm takes out a lot of those front walls and gains an upper hand unless Equinox on that Zeratul can get those picks.
You know, it reminds me of another Tempo Storm composition that we saw last week versus Freedom on Towers of Doom, where they had a Zarya... It was double support and Abathur, and then it was just all about Vala. And Tempo Storm executed in that comp so well when we didn't really see how it would be possible for them to be able to win versus Team Freedom on Towers of Doom, a battleground where Team Freedom is very good, but it was the cross-supporting that Tempo Storm executes so well already. You have to think about it. They've played double support for a long time. Koth and Luck is very comfortable on his secondary supports, things like this Brightwing here.
And it's going to allow them to deal with the situation pretty effectively. You see Cattle turning around for a bit of punishment, using that level 1 Feel the Heat. Don't worry, Gilly. I've got the compliment of feeling the heat here as fast as I possibly can.
It only took you 1 minute and 20 seconds to make sure to find a way to bring that up.
You know, starting the record. It's the one talent I will talk about every time because I do think it makes and breaks this hero within its current meta. Just the impact that Caterpillar can have on that Zarya here with that 50% bonus auto attack damage is just so very good at sieging up, taking out that damage, but taking out those front walls. And on that note, Tempo Storm here with the laning situation, they haven't gained too much, but neither has Space Station Gaming. It's been rather a slow beginning to the laning.
Yeah, Tempo Storm, once they realized where that Gul'dan Morales was going to lay siege, sent down Vala Ariel, keeping that duo together, and then sending Garrosh along with it to put some fear into the hearts of Lieutenant Morales and Gul'dan. So it's up to the tri-lane in the top. And as long as Equinox continues to show himself, that bottom lane can feel very confident for Tempo Storm. But here comes Fury. He throws Equinox back into tower range. First blood.
And gets a drag on Casanova as well. The Frozen Tempest and Howling Blast look like it's enough to allow him to get out of there. But Tempo Storm bringing out the Fangs here already. Maybe not in the way that you would expect them to get those kind of early first bloods. A punishment onto that Zeratul, but also highlights the fact that you can see Space Station understand that the Zeratul needs to be as aggressive as possible if they're going to hold their own.
There goes a pull back in. Jason in trouble. Gets hit by the Arcane Flare, but gets out alive just barely. Casanova can't get on this point, so it's up to Space Station in the bottom lane now to take the beacon, but the damage has been done. We're at 68% beacon progress to the 0. The stark 0 of Space Station.
Equinox will be able to at least backdoor this top altar for a minute to stop that bleeding there, but that is a insane amount of value out of that first rotation.
It is.
We almost never look at one death in the early game and Braxis holdout and see that large of a percentage. It's typically maybe in that 15 to 30 range here, so very big setback now for Space Station Gaming, and something that they have got to be considering here. You do not want to deal with this double support sieging composition with 100% Zerg Rush, Gilly. It is just a worst case.
That it is. Things will help as we see Talking Trees continue to stack up his Fell Flame with Pursuit of Flame, but he is a far cry away from having the 40 stacks necessary, just sitting at 13 for now. And Fury rotating back and forth again is going to give just a few more percentage before the top can be contested by Equinox and Space Station, 88% to 0.
The one thing that we talked about into the draft a little bit is, as we're rounding these level 7 talent tiers, is if Brightwing will end up going into that cleanse, if they consider it necessary after the Aegis. We've seen in the past, hold up here, Equinox found Psalm. The Vorpal Blade's enough to at least get the kill. Now June's in a terrible spot. Koth and Luck able to get that teleport on in. The pull onto Equinox, he should have a blink. Is it enough? It looks like it is. Tiger with the healing beam, and things are all good for Space Station.
Yeah, this synergy from Tempo Storm has already got to be making Equinox sweat a little. That pull hitting him now twice, the immediate polymorph afterward from Koth and Luck. It's pretty scary to be an Equinox, especially with Peekaboo taken by Brightwing to give that extra vision. Make it hard for him to sneak in team fights and get a Void Prison on the back line. Void Prisons that in their last series versus Superstars were integral to them being able to stay alive and win off of Wombo combos, but it's going to be far different versus that Brightwing now.
It is going to be far different here for them, and Space Station has done a very good job with these rotations at least getting some of that percentage back for themselves, almost back to dead even here into Tempo Storm as they let off the brakes on that one kill. I'm just surprised at how much both of these teams have been able to achieve with those minor picks here. Again, very uncharacteristic of North American Braxis holdout. Good flank here from Equinox, good reveal even from Cattle, or Koth and Luck, excuse me. It's going to be just a bit of a trade here, nobody gaining too much for either side. And I'm amazed at how slow, again, this laning situation is playing out. The 2 versus 2 on bottom, again, is just going to be Space Station just keeping it up, keeping up that pressure. And as long as Tempo isn't losing anything, they're okay with this.
It's a very good closeout from Tempo Storm, using almost all of Psalm's health bar just to make sure he can squat the point, but calculated from them to get the bigger of the Zerg Rush. And here it is in the top lane as it starts to lay siege to the base of Space Station Gaming, bringing down the towers and the gate in front. There's still a lot of potential damage to be done with the Ultralisks, the Hydralisks behind them, and then even the Guardians still up. Casanova trying to set up so that Talking Trees can safely start throwing out those Fell Flames to clear it out, creating space. Equinox is going to come in, throws out Singularity Seekers to that, but has to retreat.
I am surprised that Tempo Storm decided that that was not worth their heavy commitment as a 5-man, but I feel like that is just due to this double support composition. Naturally, the flaw of it is that Vala is a majority of your wave clear, a majority of your pressure onto those structures, so that if you're even on the objective, I guess it does make sense to play slower and get that defensive. But again, they have the field that he's with a double support and a hyper carry Vala. When you see those compositions, we're thinking, this is the 5-man death ball. You make 100 Zerg Rush, get a keep. And so I was a bit surprised, but it ultimately comes down to their lack of wave clear. If they are more successful over the next Shrine phase, though, you can assume that Death Ball will be far more effective than Space Station.
Timbo also went for the Q build, Vala, the classic Q build with Monster Hunter 2, so maybe just wanted to make sure they could utilize that to take out the Zerg Rush before it could do too much, and then maybe even siege with the amount of time that Tempo Storm could keep everyone else defending in the top lane from Space Station. They did get some good damage done in the bottom lane. They have 1 tower down. They're just barely ahead. Really, it is very close in experience as both teams are trying to achieve 10.
And Kothenlock did end up avoiding the cleanse there at the 7 route. So the one fear I do see into the team fighting here, after all the crowd control goes down, if Aegis is popped a little bit too early, wow, a lot of damage there up on bottom. But if that Aegis comes out too early from Tempo Storm, the Horrify afterwards and the crowd control synergy might be enough to get those kills, just like they did there on bottom, that they maybe wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Yeah, it takes a while to phase shift in. And yes, if you're wanting to bank on getting that phase shield in as a way of protecting that person that you would have otherwise just cleansed from that, but if she finds herself too close to the rest trying to heal, and that's where that her Soothing Mist radius is going to come in handy, making sure that she doesn't also get hit by the Horrify. So if she needs to, she can go in with a phase shift, get the shield on them, and then a potential Emerald win afterward. We're going to see if it's Emerald win. Yes, so an Emerald win after to allow a disengage.
And there's that's such a risky build there for that Brightwing. There's a lot of trust into the Zarya and Ariel to make sure they get those healing. But again, how much of the resources from June are going to be committed to keep that solo damage Vala up live on the backline? Tempo Storm, as we have said, has been running sustained compositions for a long while, so I'm sure that they understand how to deal with the situation. But it is going to be a very challenging predicament here with a team like Space Station. Man, Equinox getting flipped left and right. Fury he is like, it feels like a homing missile there with those.
A Zeratul radar. Well, they take him down with the radar. Didn't use a Panic Void Prison, though, so they'll have that when he pops back up. June's been holding off on his heroic for a while. Are we possibly going to see some sort of resurrect comp?
So I think what you're seeing is him holding it to see whether or not he gets 100% Zerg Rush. And if he does, he'll wait to see if they can all in the core. And if it's risking sacrificing one person, resurrecting, and you can win the game.
Okay.
It's essentially the hide your bloodlust for if you can get a major win condition, or Syndragosa like that. But ultimately, we see Tempo Storm. They commit to the Aegis. I think that's the only argument I can see as to why you'd be like, do I want to hold on to this talent?
Yeah, there have been a couple times when we've seen teams where they just don't feel like they can keep someone alive under extreme pressure from a lot of burst damage like you might have from a Zeratul. Just go for a Resurrect instead and then play semi-cautiously but keep your opponents in the fight. It's risky, but if you can make it to the Resurrect and have people back, then it could pay off. I think it was even E-Star that we saw do that back at the mid-season brawl, but Casanova's in a lot of trouble. He uses Army of the Dead, so after that, Polymorph can start to heal back up.
Emerald Wind could have been used, but wasn't needed. The flip, and Ancestral connects there onto Casanova, so he's getting a lot of value. 4-man push there from Cotton Luck, forcing out the Void. Space Station Gaming here is just going to be comfortable retreating for a moment. Tempo looking like they want to move up, and one nade from Tiger JK is enough to push him back. 100% Zerg Rush here for Space Station.
Very good from Space Station. They did have to use most of their heroic abilities in order to achieve that, but they were focused on other things other than the team fight, and it was up to Tempo Storm to try to force that team fight, even using Emerald Wind in that instance. So each has a support heroic ability left, but Tiger JK could maybe use the Stim Drone here to try to get some additional damage onto the siege.
Tiger JK got flipped into a bad spot, and not enough healing there from Rhaegar to keep him alive. Tempo Storm aggressing forward. Good taunt. Nice use of the expulsion zone. Is going to lock down another. 2 members of Space Station are dead, and that is a free clear now for Tempo Storm.
We'll take down the fort, but Dread, as I talk about Stim Drone, are you surprised to see Stim Drone here? We've seen so much of it. I don't think we've had a single medevac dropship since the Lieutenant Morales change. But to see Stim Drone here, there's no Vala with that instead. Or I guess the idea is that you're going to put Stim Drone on Zeratul possibly?
Ultimately, this extends farther than Lieutenant Morales on this question, I would say. I feel like in general, North America with a double support perspective, I feel like we kind of fail to appreciate that double failsafe in a lot of situations, and we rely on the fact that that guy should be able to keep me up, never considering what if your opponent just doesn't let those resources work in that manner, right? You always know you got to be attending towards the Illidan's, the Valas, those type of hyper carries, and kind of oftentimes go, well, I should be able to keep myself alive. And I do feel that, yes, Stim Drone maybe is more likely to be the heroic choice. Oftentimes, it is very, very surprising that we have seen not one case of medevac dropship.
Yeah, especially in this instance. It's not like we've got a rune tap Arthas who's just ready to go ham with icy talons and attack speed there.
There is a bit of an argument as to why in this type of composition you can get away with it, and it's only because of the Void Prison. Nice, Horrify!
This is a rough place for the double support up-tempo Storm. Cotton Luck may just get out of here, though, with a great Emerald Wind follow-up.
And that is enough damage to isolate out the Arthas. No more Casanova alive. It looked like a bad moment there for the members of Tempo Storm, but they find a way to turn it. Equinox getting a huge flank here. He does have a Void. He's going to open with a 5-man.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the setup here, there's no Horrify to follow after this, but Stim Drone's still going to be used. Double taunt, double fail. Oh, Zeratul just goes down. Rhaegar falls too. And suddenly, Tempo Storm for a second time get through what should be a win in a fight for Space Station.
Tempo Storm just looked at that Stim Drone Zeratul and was like, all right, boys, that is going to be easy work. Another flip coming out from Fury. Just an absolute horror there on that front line. Garrosh, now Tempo comfortable to back out here with a full level lead, creeping up on the 16 talents here, and a very, very healthy Zerg Rush.
You know, I know that Fury put a lot of work into being the side laner for Tempo Storm while he was in that position, but you can just tell how happy he is to be back on the warrior position. Ever since he has gotten back in the primary warrior spot, he has been making plays no matter who he is on for the team. And in this instance, he has contributed to a lot of those 8 kills with his Garrosh control, the pulls, the flips. Another beacon phase active. Tempo Storm working towards 16s along with it.
Space Station Gaming has to find a way to force this fight before the 16 window, but they're out of a Void Prison for another 25 seconds. I'm not confident that they will be able to force that fight pre-16 and also reliably wait onto that Void Prison. Tempo, though, you can see that they are very much waiting for that fight and that they are trying to take these slow and safer transitions around the map.
Grenade knocks Tempo Storm off of the point. Space Station really don't want to give it up. They're going to commit. They use Army of the Dead. There's another grenade. Expulsion Zone pushes Space Station off of the point.
Equinox is flanking. He just got his Void Prison back. There's the Peekaboo. The Emerald Wind is dropped. It only isolates 2 after the Horrify. Only 1 heroic available for Space Station. The taunt's still there for Fury as he flips Casanova.
Casanova just can't stay alive in these fights because there's so much focus on the backline. Now Equinox is separated way far away from Space Station, and again, Space Station must retreat from the fight, giving Tempo Storm the beacon.
Chasing down, saw him forcing the Void, and it's still just barely enough to buy him the time to walk on out. Maybe not the proudest moment here for Equinox, but oh, not like this. Even flipping to give into the fray auto attack. Nice teleport out. And that's that.
The end. Space Station will lose the Zergrush, but they do get quite a lot of it for that, and they're going to need that. They don't have 16 here. Now Talking Trees has been caught, pulled back into all of Tempo Storm by Fury. He'll be the next one to fall. Staggered death upon staggered deaths from Space Station caused by Tempo Storm and the immense control they have in these team fights. Tempo Storm is playing for keeps.
And now they are playing for keeps. And they're going to be able to find themselves this top one, and maybe more than that. Again, a very terrifying sieging composition and one of the most dominant talent tiers to be up here for Tempo Storm. 100% Zergrush. It's just, can Space Station Gaming hold off? Keep in mind, there is no Void to stop this core rush.
It was a cleanse forced to make sure that Tiger JK was safe. Casanova receiving the safeguard to live. He's using Army of the Dead again, and will it keep him alive this time? Tempo Storm may have just been scared away, happy just to take out the keep there. But Space Station, if they can keep them here...
Tempo can turn this. They don't want to take this fight. They're still not 16. Tempo Storm, if they bait them that far out, would just immediately go, wait. You were willing to take this fight, but not the one on your core? Thank you very much. Luckily, Tempo Storm was not able to find that skirmish here, and that we have a bit longer. Bottom keep did end up going down on the side of Tempo Storm.
Yes, it did.
And that is a very big win for the members of Space Station Gaming. The fact that structurally they are on even footing and they finally have found themselves the 16 talent tier.
They are just about there, and they are on the march, looking to see where they can find somebody to pick. Not quite 16 yet.
See the pings being thrown down to scout out Equinox. Just constantly, Tempo Storm has had a track of him. We've been talking about how he presents this kind of pseudo-globo, but if you're as good as Tempo Storm, it looks like he just doesn't do anything. That stealth mechanic is just not worth.
Yeah, Peekaboo is very annoying. When you've got the homing missile known as Fury's Garrosh, you're pretty good from that too. Everybody has been keeping an eye out for Equinox. But 16 is now here. This is a big power spike with Rampant Hellfire for Gul'dan. We've got Remorseless Winter. Casanova has been flanking deep into the lines of Tempo Storm and has been having a really hard time keeping himself alive, even with the double support that they have. But if he can start to get some of the lockdown on people, it may make the difference between life and death to take out Tempo Storm and turn this game around.
They're waiting for the pressure on that camp up at the bottom to reveal Koth and Luck. They see it. Equinox, he's questioning, do I kill the Brightwing or do I go for the team? He's going to go out for the Brightwing. Cawthon, you can see it. His spider senses are tingling. He walks away. It's so tense.
All I have is like nature documentary. Observe the hunter looking for its prey. There it is.
No polymorph even forced. There is no kill potential until Ice Block is forced or polymorph and Ice Block are dropped. Casanova, though, is going to get tossed into all the members of Tempo Storm. No Horrify used yet. Forces Army of the Dead, though.
Does. Zeratul still on the core, has done a lot of damage to Koth and Luck, escorting one catapult to the core. But now with beacons activating in 12 seconds, this changes things, changes priorities for both of the teams.
Just getting a free bit of energy there off that middle boss, Cannell, with a bit of a cheeky play. Hoping he can get a fight with that advantage. But it looks like they aren't going to force anything too much. Equinox comfortable capturing that bottom shrine. The members of Tempo getting aggro up on top.
Yeah, they can aggress as soon as they see that this is going to be taken. Space Station stepping very far back this time.
Equinox is attempting this kind of constant flank throughout a majority of these team fights, and we've seen Casanova try it one time. They were able to sniff that one out. When Equinox has made it happen, it just feels like Space Station Gaming, I'm not even blaming the flanker, but something between the 4-man and the 1, whenever they're looking for these initiations, it's never collapsing all at once. And Tempo is like, hey guys, there's somebody flanking. Then they attend towards that. The other people are like, oh, we got to start this fight. And it just feels like it's never all at once. And I want to see that kind of coordination and this unison of initiation from Space Station Gaming if they're going to keep this sharking Zeratul going for the rest of this game.
Yeah, you want the same kind of synergy that we saw from Space Station yesterday versus Superstars, but Tempo Storm just seems to have everything figured out, the playbook of Space Station, and the way that Space Station have been trying to approach the fights and constantly forcing things like Army being able to take out Casanova while somebody is harassing Gul'dan enough that both of the supports are terrified there, or maybe Tiger JK is being pulled in and they have to focus on that. But Space Station's back harassing Koth and Luck again. They've been able to keep Koth in here successfully with the camp that Equinox took.
I just don't see any situation where Brightwing isn't able to clear that. Hold up, though. Up on top, we got the action there. Taunt is already used, and Rhaegar is out of here. Casanova's got the healing beam. A lot of damage put out to him, but Tempo Storm, with 1 kill, they are just comfortable saying that's a free win here.
Yeah, there's no Rhaegar left, which limits a lot of what Space Station can do in this skirmish. Zeratul is going to stay in the bottom. As long as Tempo Storm's willing to stay in the top, they can try to get some damage done to the core, but Brightwing has been able to continually deal with that. So now Zeratul maybe find something else to do, but the positioning set up for Tempo Storm here, the zoning is fantastic as Garrosh takes bottom.
Tempo Storm now controlling both of these altars. They're going to get that percentage ticking into their favor. It's all about when can Equinox, can he get these backdoors effectively without getting caught? Starts with bottom, but as always, Fury just proceeds to not miss. Draws out a teleport from Brightwing. Now, is Equinox going to try and apply pressure to core?
That bottom lane is where the Zergrosh is going to push for Tempo Storm. This is a pretty awkward place to be in, but it looks like, yes, Tempo Storm was going to have the boss along with the Zergrosh as the beacons complete. No 20 for Space Station Gaming. This is looking like a death march. Yeah, it's a death march for Tempo.
Tempo Storm just found a way to draw out this laning situation with the Zeratul questioning to go into the back door and Cawthon never fearing anything. Tempo Storm is able to pick themselves up with 100 Zerg Rush. They were able to start up the boss into the process, lock in that 20. I mean, this is absolutely just game, set, match, it feels like here.
Yeah, a lot of cross-supporting happening now with Shield of Hope and Revitalizing Mist for Brightwing. Let's see if it can pay off for the first game win for Tempo Storm in their first playoffs match. Fury dives deep into the back line of Space Station, gets some harassment from Equinox, but as Phase Shift goes down, there is the peekaboo. This push is still massive for Tempo Storm as they step forward toward the core of Space Station.
17,000 still existing here onto the Zerg Rush. Ultralisk starting onto the shields. Casanova and French trying to push out Tempo Storm. The flip and the taunt's going to be used, and Jason is keeping himself alive. The polymorph and strafe, everything. Too many resources used, and Jason keeps himself up, but the core, Gilly. There is the Void dropping, buying 5 seconds of time, but I don't think it's gonna matter. Tempo Storm is looking to take this game.
Yeah, there just was not enough synergy on this course to save the day for Space Station, and once Gul'dan went down, it was all she wrote for Tempo Storm to take game 1. On the battleground they chose Braxis.
15-2 in terms of kills there for Tempo Storm, just constantly taking small victory after small victory and adding up to 100% Zerg Rush after another. Very clean game from them across the board. In Space Station, it did feel like they were a bit more lost than usual. What do you think?
You know what? That match in and of itself was super entertaining because the rotational gameplay that ended up happening put Space Station in a situation where they're down a global, and the fact that they are up or even in keeps, the fact that bottom keep went down in favor of Space Station actually ended up hurting them a lot. They missed a lot of that bot lane soak throughout the game, and that's why we saw Zeratul constantly trying to pressure the Brightwing, because it threatens a kill, it threatens core damage, and it threatens soak. But having to use your Zeratul to catch those 3 things kind of sucks, so they were able to lose a little bit of map pressure. But the one thing that I really want to highlight in this team fight in particular as we go into the clip, I really want to highlight how Tempo Storm, if we can slow it down, recovers from this position here. The big Horrify split up Tempo Storm an insane amount, but we see June right here able to save Cawthon with that burst heal, and it's the fact that Tempo Storm is able to stay so clumped up and clustered into one amoeba essentially, and then just take team fights from that way with the double support composition. It's almost impossible for SSG to get that lethal damage. We saw that big Horrify, and even here's like a perfect example where it's a 5-man VP, but they have nothing out of it. It doesn't matter. Tempo Storm can just press hold position and they'll all stay alive due to the sustain and the damage output that they have. So they were able to keep their composure after that Horrify, come back into the fight together, and it was just all around solid play by them.
I really liked, we were talking about Fury and his play this whole entire game, but in that example that you showed, using Into the Fray, giving that little bit of armor that you give to allied heroes to make sure that June could stay alive since he had already used Aegis, really, and then getting the slow from that too to make sure that they could kill Casanova. It's just, they seem on a tear, a whole different level.
That shows how confident they were, and I mean, the analysis I gave about them taking SSG to Braxis, I mean, has got to hold true with that level of gameplay that we saw. And one thing on the note of Fury that I found really interesting that game, Tempo Storm did a really good job between Cattle and Fury of actually synergizing Zarya's level 4 speed shield with Garrosh to threaten that QE combo.
Yeah.
And also, like, if you put speed shield on Garrosh, he can just run up to you and flip you too. Like, that synergy I didn't really notice before the game, but in the game I thought it was really, really cool that they were able to do that.